I had a discussion the other day about the difference between a hero and an anti-hero and a villain. And I think it really comes down to the question of how much that person is willing to self-analyze and to self-scrutinize, and their ability to be objective. Because, for example, when we define an anti-hero, what is that? A lot of time, what we mean is an anti-hero is often someone who in the end is fighting for something good, but maybe his or her methods aren't always great. A classic example is the Punisher, who goes around killing people just for being affiliated with organized crime, even if they really maybe haven't done anything terrible. If they're connected to it, they die. That kind of a thing. Um, but but the thing is, and this is an issue that always arises in anti-hero narratives, is that it's hard to distinguish between that and a villain, because when you look at villains, most of the time, if it's a compelling villain, a villain who's interesting, he's often fighting for something good, or that appears to be good. He's doing something to bring about some great end that sounds great. That's generally what happens. Like you have when you have tyrants in fantasy narratives, usually they're fighting for the sake of stability and order and things like that. So, what is the difference? If the ends justify the means, or even if the means justify the ends, or whatever, what's the difference between a hero and an anti-hero and a villain? If we're going to accept a certain level of imperfection from all of them, well, I guess we don't accept it from villains, but if we're going to accept a certain level of imperfection from heroes and anti-heroes, then at what level are we able to accept that, and at what level is it objective? And I think it mostly boils down to how much that person is willing and able to realize the true motivations underlying what they say they're fighting for. It's not enough to simply claim that you're fighting for order, for justice, for that which is right. You have to really analyze yourself and really self-scrutinize and be willing to admit that you could be wrong. And I think that is the main point. And of course that also is connected to the fact that a villain usually is not actually fighting for that which is right, for this great thing. That's just an excuse for what he really wants. His real motivation is not righteous. So while a hero may at times do terrible things, low-flying aircraft, a hero may sometimes do terrible things for the sake of a good cause, and while we may not agree with everything the hero does, we'll still often excuse that to some extent by just saying, everyone's imperfect at some point. For a villain, it's different, because with the hero, there's sincerity. The hero really is fighting for that. Really is fighting for that good thing, whereas the villain, most of the time, is not. That's not the real motivation. That's just an excuse for the real motivation, which tends to be narcissistic and self-serving.